For a long time, people have looked for the most important answers outside themselves. They searched in temples, religious teachings, faraway stars, and even in big ideas that promised to free them from the limits of their own bodies. But as organized religion lost some of its hold, science took over. Science broke the body down piece by piece and treated it like a machine, just parts working together with no higher meaning. Because of this, something important got lost. The connection between understanding the body and understanding the soul. Today, many of us feel empty, not because there's nothing going on around us, but because we're disconnected from what's inside us, from the quiet design in our bodies that still carries the memory of something sacred. This book isn't about some new discovery or secret technique to wake up. It's not another spiritual idea to add to all the noise out there. Instead, it's a journey back to something that's always been inside you, just beneath the surface of words, beliefs, and expectations. It starts with a simple idea. The body isn't the problem or the barrier. It's the forgotten map to what many traditions call the divine living within us. You won't learn something new here. You'll remember. You'll see again what you've always felt but never named. That your organs don't just handle blood, food, oxygen, or waste. They also deal with emotions, intuition, desires, trauma, memories, and purpose. Every gland is like a sacred altar, every muscle a messenger of energy, and every system a part of a deeper, unseen order we haven't fully understood yet. But we can start to notice it through our own experience, without needing complicated symbols or vague mysticism. Consciousness isn't some ghostly thing. It's something you can feel, breathe, tighten, and relax. Your body talks to you not in words, but through rhythm, pressure, temperature, movement, and even pain. This language is universal, coming before thoughts or identity. Your body has been trying to communicate since before you even knew how to listen. This book will help you reconnect with that conversation, not through mysterious devotion or scientific doubt, but through a balanced, clear way. We'll explore the body like both an ancient spiritual seeker and a modern brain scientist. We'll dive into places like the diaphragm, thymus, pineal gland, and intestines, not to theorize, but to bring them back as aware players in life's great symphony. Each chapter is like a room in the temple that is your body. Each organ is a door to a part of you that's been forgotten because of too much disconnected logic or uprooted spirituality. Keep this in mind as you read. Your body is not just a symbol, it's real and alive. And in this reality, the spiritual and physical are one and the same. You don't have to leave your body behind to find light. You just need to live in it with awareness. This journey won't ask you to believe anything. It just asks you to look inside, to breathe from a place you've never been taught, and to listen with an ancient kind of hearing, the hearing of your soul already living in your body, the soul that knows, even if it's forgotten. You can support us by hitting the subscribe button and liking the video. Thanks for inspiring us to keep making better content for you. You're ready to change your life. Chapter 1. Flesh and Light. The body as the vehicle of the unseen. The idea that the body traps the soul isn't a deep spiritual truth. It comes from only a partial or mistaken reading of ancient wisdom. Many modern religious and spiritual teachings assume the spirit is pure and matter is a burden or something to escape. This divide has pushed people for centuries to look beyond the body, ironically ignoring the body itself, the soul's closest tool. But if you go back to the oldest sources, not through strict rules or teachings, but by directly experiencing their symbols, you find a clearer, more natural truth. The body isn't a prison for the spirit, it's the spirit's coded expression. The Hermetic texts teach that humans are incredible miracles, not just because of the mind or soul alone, but because we carry a reflection of the entire universe within us. There's no disrespect toward the flesh here. Instead, there's a deep respect for its mystery. The physical body isn't a lower form of the divine, but its concentrated expression. Like how light bends and becomes visible when it hits certain materials, the spirit takes form in our organs, tissues, and bones to act in this world without losing its true nature. Matter isn't the enemy of spirit. It's the way spirit works here. The Kabbalah explains the body as a garment for the soul, with every part linked to secret aspects of the divine name. This isn't just poetic, it's a kind of spiritual technology. Our bodies are made of organs that don't just do chemical work, they also vibrate. This means the body is built for more than just survival. It's designed to reveal what's hidden. Our form isn't random, it carries a language we haven't fully learned to read. Modern science is quietly changing this view too. Neuroscience shows that perception doesn't happen only in the brain. It comes from ongoing interaction between body, environment, feelings, and memory. The extended body idea means knowledge isn't just in our thoughts, but in the whole body experience. When our body senses, it's through organs, senses, and inner rhythms. This suggests consciousness isn't just inside our heads, it's spread out, with the physical body playing an active role in how we think and feel. Here, biology and mysticism start to speak the same language if we're open-minded. The pineal gland, often linked to spiritual insight, isn't just a mystical idea. It's a real part of the brain that reacts to light, controls sleep cycles, and may connect to visionary experiences. The thymus, important for immunity, is also called the seat of compassion in spiritual texts. Is this superstition? Not really. If matter responds to energy patterns, which can be influenced by emotions like forgiveness or gratitude, as science shows, then the body not only reacts to feelings, but stores them. Each organ has its own rhythm and energy. The heart, for example, doesn't just pump blood. It creates an electromagnetic field that changes with our emotions and intentions. Research from the HeartMath Institute shows that deep gratitude organizes the heart's rhythm in a way that benefits the brain, blood pressure, and hormones. This tells us the heart is more than a muscle. It's a center of information and order. The same goes for the liver, intestines, lungs, and skin. Every part of the body connects to consciousness. Every cell is both a biological unit and a particle influenced by a greater field. That's why ancient alchemists never separated medicine from spirituality or body from soul. Hermetic teachings say, as above, so below, as within, so without, not just as words, but as a working principle. If the spirit wants to act in the world, it needs a vibrating structure to support it. That structure is the body. In this view, disease isn't a mistake or punishment. It's a message, a sign that something's out of balance, a signal the flow is blocked. Symptoms aren't nuisances to ignore. They're the body's way of warning us. When the body hurts, it isn't failing, it's speaking. When it's inflamed, it's protecting. When it's tired, it's slowing down something that's going wrong. What happens if we don't listen? The connection breaks. The soul no longer feels at home in the body, but trapped in conflict. The mind tries to fix what the body hasn't healed. Emotions come out in odd ways: chronic pain, unexplained fatigue, symptoms without clear causes that linger like shadows inside us. When that happens, nothing can come together clearly because the vehicle is broken. The mind wants one thing, but the body holds on to a different memory. We call on light, but the body hasn't been fully part of the process. The answer isn't to escape or ignore the body. It's to bring it back as the place where the invisible can work. This means seeing each organ as a kind of technology that can be turned on, reset, and reactivated. But to do this, we have to stop treating the body like an object and start living inside it like it's a sacred temple. A temple isn't understood by theories, it's experienced. You don't grasp it with plans, you walk it barefoot. The same is true for the body. It's not healed by ideas, but by presence. It's not enlightened by denying it, but by accepting it fully. That's why this chapter doesn't end with a summary, but with an invitation. Look at your body for what it really is. Not just a physical structure without spirit, not a prison, not a random accident, but the only place you can truly remember who you are. Because outside the body there is no experience, no transformation, no world. Flesh isn't a veil, it's a lamp. The more you light it up, the more the spirit can truly live inside. Chapter 2. The diaphragm, the bridge between thought and emotion. The diaphragm rarely comes up when people talk about emotions, but that silence actually shows how disconnected we've become. It's the gap between what we feel and what we think, between what we hold inside and what we let out, between our drive to live fully and our ability to handle it. Scientifically, the diaphragm is known as a muscle that separates the chest from the belly and helps us breathe. But that description only scratches the surface. The diaphragm does much more than help us breathe. It quietly controls how intensely we experience life. It's the doorway where feelings either turn into energy we can use or get stuck as long-term repression. To really understand it, we need to look beyond biology into neuroscience, ancient wisdom, and personal experience. Physically, the diaphragm is a muscle that works automatically to pull air into the lungs and push it out. But breathing isn't just a mechanical process, it's tied to emotions. Our breath changes with how we feel. It tightens with fear, quickens with anxiety, and almost disappears in depression. At the heart of all this is the diaphragm, acting like a gate or a valve. When it tightens, it doesn't just block oxygen, it disrupts the flow of energy through the whole body. In ancient Taoist teachings, this area is called the middle dantian, one of 3 key energy centers in the body. The lower one relates to physical and sexual energy, the upper to spirit and vision, and the middle to emotional balance, bringing together heart and belly. Taoist masters say this is where unprocessed emotions get cooked, old feelings and reactions that don't respond to reason. If we don't pay attention to this center, we risk getting stuck in emotional turmoil or disconnecting from our true feelings. Modern medicine is starting to catch on, though slowly. It's recognizing that the diaphragm isn't just for breathing. It also controls our nervous system's balance. When the diaphragm is tight or not moving well, our body stays stuck in fight, flight, or freeze mode. But when we breathe deeply using the diaphragm, it activates the vagus nerve, which helps us relax, connect socially, heal, and learn. What ancient people called lighting the central fire is now understood as stimulating the vagus nerve and restoring balance. Different cultures have pointed to the same idea, just in different ways. In ancient Egypt, the solar throne symbol was tied to the heart of the pharaoh and an energy center in the body between the chest and belly. People placed charms and performed rituals there to connect with vital energy, not the sun in the sky, but the life force that guides willpower and presence. That throne was really the diaphragm, seen as the control center of inner power. Those who controlled it ruled their inner world. Those who didn't were controlled by unknown forces. Modern somatic psychology agrees. Peter Levine, who developed trauma therapy based on body awareness, says one key sign of emotional freezing is a tight diaphragm. People with anxiety, panic, or unexplained tiredness often breathe shallowly, using just their chest, with a locked or overly tight diaphragm. This problem doesn't get fixed with medication or talk therapy. It needs relearning how to breathe and reclaiming the body as a safe home. Activating the diaphragm is like reopening the door between what we feel inside and what can flow out. When emotions are stuck, they don't vanish. They harden, get trapped in tissues, show up as aches or tightness, and can lead to unconscious choices that block change. This happens because the diaphragm tightens, cutting off communication between the mind and the belly, between reason and feeling, between impulse and control. This disconnect creates a confusing existence where your thoughts, feelings, and actions don't line up. That lack of alignment causes internal chaos. Science shows that coherent systems create stable waves, while chaotic ones produce interference. For us, when thought, emotion, and action are out of sync, the energy we put out into the world becomes scattered and unstable. The diaphragm is like the metronome that keeps the rhythm steady. When it moves freely, everything inside us resonates together, creating not just health, but a clear, consistent reality. Good breathing isn't just about oxygen. It's about tuning the instrument that is you. Learning to breathe with the diaphragm isn't about memorizing techniques. It's about being present, feeling the spot between your chest and belly, placing your hand there and letting your breath fill that space. It's not a mechanical exercise, but an act of listening. The ancients understood this, which is why they focused on breath, not just mind, during meditation. They said, "The closed fire is not in the sky, but in the breath that returns to its center." Every inhale is a chance to find your center again. Every exhale a chance to let go of what doesn't belong. The diaphragm becomes a purifier, a vibrational engine, a sensitive monitor of when you're present and when your mind has taken over. At this stage, it's less about knowing more and more about simply reconnecting. When you breathe from your diaphragm, your whole body reorganizes. Digestion improves, posture aligns, immunity strengthens. More importantly, your view of the world shifts because you no longer see through judgment or survival, but through steady presence, your true core. This is real embodied spirituality, not needing to escape your body to feel light, but making your body the clearest expression of who you are. Breathing from your diaphragm is more than a practice. It's resetting the place where everything begins. There's no deeper revelation than this. Your deepest awareness isn't in books, beliefs, or future plans. It's right here, now, in your living body, and that's where the real journey starts. Chapter 3. The Thymus, the center of forgiveness and unconditional love. As we grow older, some parts of our body seem to shrink or lose function. The thymus is one of those. It's a gland that's biggest and most active in childhood, but as we mature, it gradually shrinks and seems almost useless. Yet, just because it gets smaller doesn't mean it stops working. Instead, its role shifts to a subtler level, something biology hasn't fully figured out yet. Scientifically, the thymus is a key part of our immune system, teaching T cells how to protect us. But spiritually, especially in esoteric and Gnostic traditions, the thymus is much more. It's the heart of unconditional love, the inner space where deep forgiveness lives, and the biological home for higher consciousness. The link between the thymus and love has been sensed for centuries, even if its physical role wasn't clear. For example, theosophical teachings say, the thymus is where the astral body begins its conscious growth. Alice Bailey, inspired by Tibetan master Jiwal Kul, described the thymus as a place where personal desires transform into higher soul energy. This isn't just a poetic idea. It's about the energy shifts that happen inside us as we grow. Unlike other glands connected clearly to reproduction or metabolism, the thymus shows us that the body works on both physical and subtle levels. In Christian mysticism, this gland is tied to what the Gnostic Gospels call the inner Christ. not a historical person, but an inner force that awakens when judgment fades and presence grows. The Gospel of Thomas, a text left out of the traditional Bible, says, "If you bring forth what is within you, that will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, that which you do not bring forth will destroy you." This may sound abstract, but it makes sense when you think about the thymus and energy. What isn't expressed gets stuck and causes damage. Forgiveness here isn't just about being kind or making a choice. It's an energy release that clears blockages and restores the natural flow of life energy. Recent research in neuroimmunology shows strong connections between our immune system and emotional health, especially with trauma, resentment, and deep sadness. Studies over the past 2 decades have found that people struggling with depression, PTSD, or autoimmune issues often show immune problems linked to unprocessed emotional pain. This isn't a metaphor. When we don't forgive, the body becomes toxic. The thymus, which connects the nervous and immune systems, plays a key role here. If someone stays emotionally closed off for too long, whether from pain, defense, or numbness, the thymus slows down and weakens, leaving both body and mind vulnerable. In other words, holding onto emotional pain can wear down our immune system. Energy-wise, the thymus sits in a special spot between the heart and the throat. It's the place where love felt inside must turn into love expressed, where true compassion, not just feeling sorry but actively understanding another, becomes words, actions, and gestures. When this center is blocked, people often become cynical, feeling emotions but hiding them, understanding others but not truly living it. Our modern world, with its focus on guilt and self-reliance, makes this worse. The thymus, the organ of tenderness and forgiveness, suffers under the pressure to seem strong and invulnerable. But, like everything in the body, the thymus can be reactivated, not by forcing it, but by gently reconnecting. The simplest way to do this is to place your hand over your chest, right where the thymus is, and breathe with awareness. This isn't about forcing feelings or making yourself forgive. It's about opening space inside so what's stuck can begin to release. The body doesn't need to understand. It just needs permission to let go. Many traditions call this healing the heart, which is really just waking up the thymus to regulate the soul's energy inside the body. When this happens, people don't just feel better physically. They start seeing the world differently. Less from fear, more from understanding. Less from demand, more from connection. In some Sufi traditions, the thymus is described as where God's mercy touches our flesh. This isn't just poetic talk, it's a real physical experience. When people feel deep gratitude, compassion, or tenderness, they can sense a warm vibration in the center of their chest, a vibration from the thymus activating. This is forgiveness working, not as a moral rule, but as a real biological process. So the thymus isn't just a leftover organ from childhood or an immune oddity. It's a core energy center that shapes the quality of our whole life. When it's active, our life energy flows clearly. When it's inactive, the body weakens and our awareness scatters. Reactivating it means more than breathing or meditating. It means letting go of the idea that protecting yourself means shutting down. The thymus only thrives when you stop defending yourself. Forgiveness then becomes an inner movement that frees energy again. This is the deep connection to the inner Christ, not a religious figure or belief, but a spiritual and biological symbol of someone who lives unconditional love without losing their integrity. Bringing the thymus back to life shows up in everyday moments, not in grand heroic acts, but in staying open when it's easier to shut down, in saying, "I see you," without giving up your own truth, in giving without expecting, in staying gentle even when life is hard. Awakening the thymus is a quiet revolution, a complete reset in how we live in our bodies, relate to the world, and heal old wounds. When the thymus wakes up, nothing external has to change, but inside, everything shifts. What seemed unbearable becomes part of us. What hurt stops controlling us, and what was once judgment turns into clear, calm presence. The world stays the same, but the way our soul lives in it is transformed. That's the true meaning of forgiveness, not excusing but freeing. Because where the thymus sings, the soul no longer needs to protect itself. It only needs to remember who it truly is. Chapter 4. The Pineal Gland. The silent eye that sees beyond the pineal gland is one of the most mysterious and often overlooked parts of the human body. In most medical schools, it's barely mentioned beyond its role in regulating sleep by producing melatonin. But its unique structure, presence of light-sensitive cells, and central spot in the brain have made it a subject of interest for scientists, philosophers, and mystics for thousands of years. Sitting at the crossroads of biology, brain science, spiritual symbolism, and first-hand spiritual experience, the pineal gland acts as a bridge between different worlds. It doesn't just manage our sleep cycles, it can also change and expand how we perceive reality itself. Physically, the pineal sits deep in the brain, right between the two halves. Its shape is similar to an eye. In some animals, like certain reptiles, it even works like a third eye, sensing light directly. In humans, it responds to the light and dark cycle by releasing melatonin, which helps control sleep, cell repair, and hormone rhythms. But its role goes much deeper. New research shows the pineal produces tiny amounts of DMT, a powerful natural compound also found in visionary plants like ayahuasca. Although scientists are still exploring what this means, it's believed the pineal plays a part in near-death experiences, vivid dreams, spontaneous mystical moments, and extrasensory perception. For thousands of years, the pineal has been linked to inner vision. The ancient Egyptians, for example, didn't just use the Eye of Horus as a religious symbol. They based it on real brain anatomy. If you look at a side view of the brain and overlay the Eye of Horus symbol, you'll see a direct match between parts of the eye and brain structures, like the thalamus, corpus callosum, and the pineal. This wasn't a coincidence. The Egyptian mystery schools believed the human body was a map of the cosmos, and that this inner, all-seeing eye wasn't looking from the outside, but from inside the soul. It was the ability to see beyond the physical senses, to remember what can't be seen. In Hermetic traditions, the pineal is connected to inner alchemy, the transformation of spirit and matter. It's not called by its modern name, but described as the place where Mercury turns to gold, where heavenly waters meet, and where divine fire descends into earthly clay. These images point to the pineal as the place where pure consciousness can reflect clearly, if the mirror is clean. That's why alchemists spoke of decalcifying the mirror. Interestingly, modern science has found that the pineal tends to collect calcium deposits as we age, which reduces its function. From a brain science point of view, activating the pineal gland is linked to synchronizing brain waves in certain patterns. Deep meditation, steady heart rhythms, and rhythmic breathing all encourage the production of theta and gamma waves, brain states connected to feelings of unity, transcendence, and sharp clarity. These brain waves aren't mystical on their own, but they create the physical foundation for spiritual experiences. Like a radio tuning into a station, consciousness needs the right brain state to pick up subtler levels of reality. The pineal acts like an antenna for those signals. Extrasensory perception isn't magic. It's a natural biological ability that's been dulled by constant outside distractions and neglect of inner life. Traditional cultures that practiced fasting, silence, darkness, and meditation understood this long before science. They knew that spending days in total darkness, like in Tibetan or Taoist retreats, makes the body produce more melatonin and possibly more DMT. This leads to expanded states of awareness without any external input. So the pineal isn't just about sleep. It can open doors to realities we can experience but don't see with our eyes. When the pineal gland is inactive or calcified, people don't just lose good sleep. They also lose mental sharpness, emotional energy, and spiritual connection. It creates an internal fog, a subtle sense of disconnection that doesn't show up in tests but builds over time. On the other hand, when the pineal starts waking up, many notice sharper intuition, vivid dreams, meaningful coincidences, and a deep sense of oneness that goes beyond thinking. Activating the pineal doesn't require drugs or extreme methods. It starts with reconnecting to yourself. Deep breathing, quiet meditation, cutting back on noise and distractions, and emotional balance all help the pineal return to its natural function as an organ of higher perception. Just as our eyes see visible light, the pineal sees a light that isn't part of the physical spectrum, a light of consciousness. This light doesn't illuminate objects but reveals deeper meanings. The Bible hints at this in Matthew. The lamp of the body is the eye. If your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. While often interpreted as a moral statement, spiritual teachers say this refers to the third eye, the pineal gland. When it's clear and open, the whole body vibrates in harmony because consciousness flows freely through it. In the end, the pineal gland isn't a leftover or a mystical fantasy. It's a real organ with both physical and energetic roles. Ignoring it limits human experience, while awakening it broadens what's possible. It's not a way to escape reality, but a tool for deeper integration, a way for consciousness to recognize itself without words. Because when the inner eye opens, you don't see a different world. You see the same one with a clarity that changes everything. That quiet, sharp vision is what the pineal gland can offer when fully understood and awakened. Chapter 5. The Pituitary, the Throne of Supernatural Will. The pituitary gland, sometimes called the hypophysis, is known in medicine as the master gland of the endocrine system. It's a tiny gland located at the base of the brain, in a small bony cavity called the sella turcica. Despite its small size, it has a huge impact. It controls hormone release for many organs and systems in the body. It regulates key functions like growth, metabolism, reproduction, and overall balance. But in spiritual and mystical traditions, the pituitary is more than just a hormone controller. It's seen as the bridge between spiritual will and the body's actions, the place where desire, when aligned with higher consciousness, takes shape and lasts over time. From a scientific view, the pituitary has two parts: the front lobe, anterior, and the back lobe, posterior. The front part produces hormones like growth hormone, prolactin, and others that influence the adrenal glands and reproductive organs. The back part stores and releases hormones like oxytocin and vasopressin from the hypothalamus. This two-part system symbolizes its role. It not only sends out signals but also passes them along. It starts processes and keeps them going. It's the gland of continuity, keeping vital functions coordinated under one internal command. In Kabbalah, especially in the teachings of the Zohar, will, called ratzon, is understood not as a surface-level urge, but as a deep flow of divine consciousness. This will is linked to Keter, the crown of the tree of life, representing pure desire before anything appears in the world. This desire isn't about lack or worry. It's about potential and clear direction. Many Kabbalists see the pituitary as the physical counterpart of Keter in the body. the place where the soul's will starts to shape matter. Unlike the thymus, which is about emotions, or the pineal, which handles subtle perception, the pituitary is about focused action. It's not about seeing or feeling, it's about carrying out the inner plan through the body. This spiritual idea fits well with science, since some pituitary-related hormones help support desire. Dopamine, for example, is often called the pleasure chemical, but it's actually more about where we direct our energy. Research shows that long-lasting desire, the kind that doesn't fade in frustration, depends on a balance between dopamine and other hormones controlled by the pituitary. That means turning a goal into reality isn't just about clear thinking or motivation. It also depends on deep hormone regulation that keeps the body pushing forward. In Hermetic teachings, the pituitary is linked to the cubic stone of perfection, a symbol for inner work that doesn't stop no matter what outside distractions come. Supernatural will here isn't about forcing things to happen, but about holding steady inside despite ups and downs. The pituitary is the biological center for that steadiness. When it's balanced, a person can stick with long-term goals without burning out, avoid being pulled off course by constant distractions, and keep connected to their purpose even when they don't see quick results. Making something real, turning an idea inside into something outside, depends a lot on keeping a clear, steady intention. Psychophysiological studies show that hormones play a big role here. Chronic stress, for example, messes with the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal system, throwing off cortisol and oxytocin levels and weakening the body's ability to heal and regenerate. So when the endocrine system isn't working right, it's not just your health that suffers, but also the link between what you want and what actually happens. To fix this, the pituitary needs to be balanced, reconnecting deep desire with steady expression over time. In tantric traditions, the pituitary is connected to the bindu visarga, a subtle energy point at the back of the skull, where higher impulses appear before turning into sexual energy or physical action. This shows that the pituitary isn't just about hormones, it's also part of directing energy on a higher level. Practically, that means a person with a healthy, balanced pituitary isn't ruled by sudden urges or emotions. Their will is steady, grounded in a deeper purpose. They act from a stable center where desire isn't just a passing feeling but a meaningful, ongoing resonance. This shifts how we think about willpower or discipline. It's not about forcing yourself or pushing through with tough effort. It's about keeping a clear, steady internal signal. That signal flows through the pituitary, guiding the whole system. Activating this gland isn't a one-time event. It's a process of recentering, reconnecting with the body's core, cutting through sensory noise, focusing attention, and following routines that honor natural, biological rhythms. Practices like focused meditation, heart-brain coherence exercises, and sustained visualization help train the body to restore this pattern. Unlike the pineal gland, which is linked to altered states, the pituitary supports clear, steady focus amid daily life. So, supernatural will isn't some outside power breaking into the body. It's the ability to consciously guide your internal systems to serve a higher goal. When the pituitary is fully active, your whole body becomes an instrument of that will. Thoughts, feelings, and actions line up naturally. Things flow without struggle. Time stops feeling like an enemy and becomes the space where your purpose unfolds. Initiatory schools call this state alignment, not a sudden awakening, but a mature balance of body, mind, and spirit that lets consciousness act without distraction. The pituitary is the throne of this will, not just a symbol, but a real working center. Here is where the impulse that drives the whole endocrine system to fulfill your inner design sites. To understand this is to see that spirituality isn't about avoiding the body, it's about consciously guiding it. Activating the pituitary isn't a miracle. It's the result of learning to listen to your own signal until it's steady, clear, and natural. Where the pituitary rules, will doesn't waver, it acts. Chapter 6. The Heart, the soul's electromagnetic center and source of coherence. For centuries, the heart has been wrapped in metaphors, myths, and superstitions. We link it to love, courage, compassion, and sometimes even emotional weakness, as if it were just a poetic symbol or a feeling. But beneath all that romanticism lies one of the most powerful and intelligent parts of the body, not just a muscle, but an electromagnetic command center, a source of vibrations and an organ that perceives and responds to signals even before the mind does. The heart is much more than a biological pump. It's like a conscious antenna, a filter between worlds, a gateway where the soul sends out its energy and receives feedback from the environment. Physiologically, the heart beats about 100,000 times a day, pumping around 5 liters of blood every minute through a complex network of vessels over 60,000 miles long. But what many don't know is that the heart also creates the strongest electromagnetic field in the body, stronger than the brain's. Research from the HeartMath Institute shows that this magnetic field can be detected several feet away and changes shape based on a person's emotions. This isn't just spiritual talk, it's measurable science. This field is active. It acts like a resonator and modulator for both internal and external signals. Experiments show the heart can react to emotional events before they happen, as if it operates on a different sense of time or a kind of non-linear awareness. When someone feels gratitude, compassion, or calm presence, the heart rhythm becomes smooth and ordered, a state called cardiac coherence. This pattern not only helps the body work better, but also syncs up signals to the brain, improving brain waves, boosting thinking, and expanding perception. This tells us something important. The heart doesn't just respond to the mind, it influences the mind. Because its electromagnetic field is stronger, it actually helps regulate other systems. This changes how we understand spirituality, emotions, and consciousness. If the heart can create a stable field that controls the brain and body, then it's the place where integrated consciousness lives. Spiritual practice might not be about escaping the body or reaching some higher plane, but about learning to keep this heart coherence, even in the middle of chaos, as a way to align thoughts, feelings, and actions. In Sufism, the heart is called the mirror of God, not just a poetic idea, but a real reflection of the soul. According to teachers like Arabi, the pure heart reflects all the divine names when it's clear, free from noise and inner conflict. This mirror doesn't create its own images, it just shows what's really there. That's why it's seen as the organ of recognition, the place where we access true reality, not by thinking but by directly perceiving. The heart's vision lets us know without analyzing, love without conditions, and act without separation. Christian mysticism also places the heart at the center. The logos, the word or divine principle, didn't come as a concept but as a living, burning heart. The Sacred Heart isn't just religious art, it symbolizes the Christic electromagnetic field, the heart as the spiritual center and the link between human and eternal. Early Gospels like Philip's say that true knowledge of Christ comes not from the mind but from the heart's inner space, where perception happens without judgment and the eternal is recognized in the now. Science has found that the heart has its own nervous system, sometimes called the heart-brain, with about 40,000 neurons. It can learn, remember, and make decisions independently of the brain in the head. When the heart-brain and the head-brain are in sync, a person experiences total alignment, clear thinking, emotional calm, physical energy, and often a wider spiritual awareness. In other words, the heart has its own intelligence. This intelligence can be awakened through simple practices, no faith required, just repetition and awareness. Breathing steadily, feeling real gratitude, showing compassion without judgment, and staying present without expecting anything, these things reset the heart's field. And when the heart is in coherence, the body regulates itself better, the immune system strengthens, stress hormones decrease, and healing speeds up. Beyond health, what's restored is the feeling of connection, the deep sense that you're exactly where you're meant to be, doing what matters, without needing outside proof. So the heart isn't about being sentimental. It's the gateway to a deeper, clearer reality. From the heart, the soul doesn't interpret or argue, it simply recognizes. And this recognition changes the energy of everything it touches. That's why many spiritual traditions say, real awakening doesn't happen in the mind, the pineal gland, or the higher chakras, but in the heart when its field matches the soul's truth. The awakened person isn't one who sees more, but one who feels more accurately, not because they're poetic, but because their energy is clear and steady. When you realize the heart perceives, organizes, and guides, your spiritual practice changes. It's no longer about thinking better, having more faith, or chasing higher states. It's about keeping that heart center clear and balanced, even when the mind is restless or life gets tough. Because when the heart's field is active, it not only protects you physically, but also sends out a healing energy that transforms the world silently. That's the heart's true power, not convincing or fighting, but holding a vibration that brings everything back into balance. The soul's electromagnetism isn't fantasy, it's a sacred technology. The heart is the central generator. Understanding it, living in it, and keeping it aligned isn't optional on the spiritual path. It's the foundation for all growth. Where the heart is real and strong, everything else falls into place. Without heart coherence, spirituality feels vague, the mind gets confused, and the body weakens. The soul's journey doesn't start in the mind or end in spirit. It flows through the heart, and from there, it transforms the world. Chapter 7. The intestines, the second brain and the digestion of what's left. Unspoken, most people think of the intestines as just tubes that break down food and get rid of waste. But that limited view misses something much deeper. The intestines aren't just a basic part of digestion. They're a complex neuroenergetic center, as sensitive and powerful as the brain. In fact, they might even have a bigger impact on our mood, unconscious choices, and how our soul reacts to the world around us. The digestive system does more than process food. It digests our experiences, emotional blocks, trauma, and the things we don't say out loud. What we keep inside, the body quietly chews on. Modern science is starting to recognize this. Enteric neuroscience has shown that the gut contains over 100 million neurons, more than the spinal cord, and works somewhat independently. It also produces over 90% of the body's serotonin, which plays a huge role in mood. It helps make dopamine, GABA, and other chemicals that influence how good or bad we feel. Because of this, many researchers call the gut the second brain. But even that might not capture the full picture. The gut processes a kind of deep, instinctive awareness, not through words or thoughts, but through a precise, ancient kind of knowing. So digestion isn't just physical, it's alchemical. Ayurveda calls this Agni, or the digestive fire, which transforms not only food, but sensory and emotional impressions into nourishment for the soul. When this fire is strong and balanced, A person digests food well and also understands life clearly. When it's weak or blocked, physical indigestion comes along with mental fog, emotional tiredness, and difficulty making sense of experiences. Western medicine has largely ignored this connection until recently, but more holistic approaches now see the body as one integrated system. The gut microbiome, the collection of bacteria and other microbes in the digestive tract, is a whole ecosystem that affects not just digestion, but mental health and emotional balance. Studies show that a healthy, diverse microbiome helps prevent anxiety, depression, and some autoimmune diseases. Interestingly, the makeup of this microbiome depends not only on diet, but also on genetics, unresolved childhood feelings, family memories passed down through generations, and overall energy in our lives. So the gut digests more than just food. It digests what we inherit, what we stay silent about, what we avoid or suppress. Medieval alchemists called the belly the lower furnace, contrasting it with the heart as the middle furnace and the head as the upper furnace. The belly was seen as the place where impurities are burned away, the soul's rough edges are refined, and the ego's lead is turned into inner gold. This wasn't just religious symbolism, it was a real understanding of the belly as a space for transformation. That's why ancient rituals often started with fasting, purging, or cleansing baths to clear not only physical toxins, but energetic memories, blocking clear perception and the flow of life energy into the body. Today, epigenetics confirms that patterns of disease and emotional responses aren't fixed fate, but tendencies influenced by environment, diet, thoughts, and especially emotional surroundings. The gut is where this genetic and emotional interaction shows up most clearly. It's so sensitive that repeating fearful or lonely thoughts can change gut bacteria. On the flip side, deep cleansing of the gut with conscious attention can shift how we think, feel, and make choices. Healing the gut is more than fixing digestion. It's a spiritual release. Fasting, an ancient practice found in almost every religion, helps with this reset. Giving the digestive system a break activates repair processes both physically and emotionally. When you stop eating, the body clears out metabolic waste but also brings up unresolved emotions. Memories from the belly appearing as dreams, visions, or old pains begging for attention. This purification reveals the gut's deeper role. It's not just a passageway for food, it's a spiritual filter. If it's blocked, the soul can't express itself clearly. Many modern digestive problems like irritable bowel syndrome, leaky gut, bloating, or constipation have both physical and energetic causes. These symptoms aren't just about digestion. They're messages from the body saying something is stuck inside. An emotion unspoken, a feeling locked away, a word never said. This chapter doesn't just aim to inform, it wants to help heal at the root. If you want clearer spirit, sharper focus, more emotional awareness, and better energy flow, start with your belly. You can't have true intuition if your body is toxic. You can't see clearly if your digestive fire is clogged with old residues. The gut is a channel of perception. When it's clean, what you feel is real, what you sense is accurate, what you decide is coherent, and what you bring into the world isn't distorted by hidden memories. Spirituality doesn't begin in the head or in fancy meditation. It starts with digestion. That's where the soul meets the world, where the subtle becomes real, and where the past transforms into usable energy. The belly isn't lesser. It's the foundation for everything higher. Only when it's honored, cleansed, and listened to can the rest of the body remember its true role as a home for living consciousness. Chapter 8. The uterus and the aura, centers of creation, fear, and psychic power. In today's culture, sexual organs are often treated in a confusing way. They're everywhere in media, yet their deeper spiritual meaning is often ignored. Biology sees them just as parts for reproduction. Religions sometimes label them as sources of sin, and psychology often views them as places shaped by trauma or social conditioning. But beyond all that, the uterus in women and the aura in men mean much more than pleasure or reproduction. They're energetic centers where creative power, deep will, and body wisdom live. When understood, cleansed, and activated, these centers become internal places where not only physical life begins, but also psychic energy, spiritual insight, and life direction take shape. Spiritual gynecology teaches that the uterus isn't just a passive organ meant for motherhood. It's a space that resonates, holds memory, and stores both personal and other people's energies. Over time, the uterus records sexual experiences, emotional bonds, wounds, decisions left undone, and silences forced upon us. Each menstrual cycle is the body's way of cleaning not just physically, but symbolically and energetically, even clearing ancestral energy. If this cleansing is blocked by trauma, repression, medication, or disconnection, the uterus becomes a dense storage of unresolved memories. This affects not only physical health, but also mental clarity, creativity, intuition, and how we find meaning in life. Taoism, which studies life energy, Qi, from a holistic view, sees the female uterus and the male aura as two key power centers. The aura, located a few inches below the navel, is the body's center of gravity, where vital energy gathers and is managed. Taoist teachings say a man who loses connection to his aura loses his sense of direction, purpose, and inner balance. The aura doesn't create life biologically, but generates inner guidance, drives decisions rooted in the self, and helps keep desire focused instead of scattered. The uterus, on the other hand, is the home of life and the source of creative vision, where the invisible takes form. Both centers connect deeply to the hormonal and autonomic nervous systems. Studies show that sexual hormones, like estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone, not only control reproduction but also influence mood, perception, thinking, and social behavior. When these hormones are balanced, creative energy flows and confidence grows. When out of balance, it's harder to trust inner signals or sustain purpose. This confirms ancient wisdom that sexual energy isn't just about sex. It's a powerful force that can build, expand, or even destroy, depending on how it's used. In sexual alchemy, especially in Tantra, semen and uterine fluids aren't seen as waste, but as precious substances carrying vital life energy. They're considered elixirs that can be transformed into light, creativity, and spiritual insight. This transformation doesn't happen by accident. It requires conscious awareness, controlled breathing, visualization, and respect for one's center. When this awareness grows, sexual energy stops being a draining urge and becomes an upward flow that fuels the energy body and the mind. Sexuality then becomes a spiritual practice, not just a physical drive. Many people who work consciously with these centers notice big changes in their perception, intuition, and decision-making clarity. Because the uterus and aura hold dense energy, they act as filters and amplifiers. When blocked by pain, repression, or neglect, perception becomes cloudy, boundaries get fuzzy, and direction is lost. But when these centers are open and healthy, clarity returns. The body starts to say yes or no, not through thought, but through a deep, ancient wisdom. Creative blocks often stem from these centers. If someone can't finish projects, gives up on ideas, or freezes out of fear of judgment, it's not always about motivation or therapy. Often they just need to reconnect with their inner power, the core where creative energy waits to be released. This reconnection isn't mental but physical. It happens through breathing into the lower belly, feeling the pulse of the uterus, and practicing deep stillness from the aura. From there, creativity flows naturally instead of feeling like hard work. These centers also regulate fear. Feeling threatened isn't just something in the brain's amygdala. It often starts in the belly. A weak aura leads to insecurity, vague anxiety, and feeling ungrounded. A uterus filled with unresolved memories can cause unconscious rejection of pleasure, emotional disconnection, or even self-destruction. The fear in the lower belly is ancient. It carries echoes of suppressed family histories, punished bodies, forced choices, and lives where freedom was denied. Healing these centers isn't just personal, it's a way to free generations. It allows the body to say what was never said, to grieve what was never mourned, and to be reborn what was once suppressed by trauma or control. Activating the uterus and aura consciously takes practice and, most importantly, respect. These centers don't respond to force or control. They open through gentle listening and steady presence. When they do open, their true role shows itself. The internal workshop where desire turns into form, intuition meets matter, and soul meets body. From there, it's possible to create without burnout, love without neediness, and live a spiritual life fully embodied without rejecting the body. Though the uterus and aura are the lowest physical points in the body, they hold the highest power. Because here, beyond gender or history, we remember that we don't need to rise somewhere else to find God. We only need to live fully in our creative center, recognize our power, and let life take the shape already waiting deep inside. Chapter 9. The perineum, the closed gate of rooting. In regular anatomy, the perineum is just the area between the genitals and the anus, made up of some muscles that help with things like controlling urine, reproduction, and structural support. But in ancient spiritual traditions, this same spot is seen as a sacred threshold, the densest part of the body where energy takes root and the soul can anchor itself in physical form. The perineum isn't just a body part, it's the gateway to grounding, the foundation of the body's temple, and the hidden root where all true embodied spirituality starts. In Tantra, this energy center is called Muladhara, the first of the 7 main chakras. Mula means root, and Adhara means support. So it's the root support that holds up the whole being on its journey upward. This isn't just an abstract idea, it's a real, activatable area closely tied to feelings of safety, belonging, survival, and basic trust in life. In Kundalini Yoga, awakening the dormant life force, the Kundalini serpent, starts right here. If this area is asleep, disconnected, or wounded, energy can't rise, consciousness can't settle, and the body feels stuck in constant threat or uprootedness. Hermetic teachings also see this area as the lower gate of fire. Medieval alchemists spoke of fire trapped underground as a symbol for the soul's hidden power waiting to be born. The perineum is that ground, that crucible where spirit turns into dense matter and can rise like a flame if the path is open. That's why many Hermetic practices don't start in the mind or heart, but at the base, to ignite the root instead of ignoring it, and to focus on what supports, not just what inspires. From a physical standpoint, the perineum is a key part of the pelvic floor, a group of muscles that support internal organs and help with urinary control, sexuality, childbirth, and posture. Weak pelvic floor muscles don't just cause problems like incontinence or sexual issues. They're linked to emotional struggles like chronic anxiety, irrational fear, or feeling disconnected from your body. Studies show that properly engaging the perineum improves balance, eases posture stress, and calms the nervous system. But this isn't just about the body. What Western medicine is only beginning to understand has been a spiritual technology in Eastern traditions for centuries. In Taoism, Tantra, and modern methods, like Cantino movement, being aware of the perineum is key. The goal isn't to tighten it forcefully, but to live consciously in it, to notice how it moves with your breath or in stillness. Practices include breathing into the base, visualizing roots growing from this spot into the earth, and gently activating the muscles around it to ground scattered energy. These exercises bring an immediate feeling of presence and grounding, something many people miss because they've lived disconnected from their body's base. Without a strong root, the body gets fragile and sensitive. The mind races, emotions swing, and willpower fades, because growth needs roots and rising requires support. Many people's sense of being lost, disconnected, or endlessly searching for spirituality without a body comes from losing contact with the perineum, the root. This isn't just a personal issue, it affects whole societies. When people aren't grounded, cultures tend toward overconsumption, shallow entertainment, and constant escape. Rerouting isn't about going backward, it's about reconnecting with what's fundamental. It means remembering that spirit doesn't come into the body to run away from it, but to express through it. And that starts by waking up and activating the perineum, the lowest, densest, and often ignored part of our body. You should know there's no lasting spiritual awakening without a strong root. A life without a solid base is an illusion or confusion. The body isn't a barrier, it's a detailed map of the soul in flesh. And that map begins with its most overlooked territory. So retraining the perineum is really spiritual retraining. It means learning to live in your body from the bottom up instead of escaping into your head or fantasy. It means honoring the center that holds you. Simple but powerful practices help. Sitting with awareness, walking while feeling the ground, breathing down to the perineum, noticing how it reacts to fear or pleasure. It also means undoing the shame and taboo around this area and reclaiming its rightful closed place in our being. If the heart is the temple, then the perineum is the cornerstone. If the pineal gland is the eye, the perineum is the ground that eye rests on. And if the soul is a seed wanting to bloom, the perineum is the rich soil where it can grow roots. Only those who honor their base can sustain their growth. Only those who descend consciously can rise with clarity. The spiritual path doesn't start at the top. It begins at the lowest, densest, most real part of the body. And there, where the body meets the earth, true awakening begins. Chapter 10. The liver, physical filter and guardian of unprocessed anger. In modern medicine, the liver is seen as a vital organ for cleansing and metabolism. We know it detoxifies the body, produces bile, stores nutrients, and regulates hormones. But beyond all that, the liver plays a much deeper role in our energy system. Across many traditions, from traditional Chinese medicine to Hermetic healing and modern psychosomatic studies, the liver isn't just a filter for physical toxins. It also filters unresolved emotions, especially anger, frustration, silent resentment, and unspoken judgments. Energetically, it's the guardian of emotional poisons the soul hasn't yet processed. Traditional Chinese medicine, which has studied the body's physical and spiritual sides for thousands of years, sees the liver as home to the ethereal soul, Hun. The liver not only manages blood and life energy, Ku-I, but also controls planning, vision, willpower, and how we project ourselves into the future. When the liver is healthy and flowing, a person has clear direction, strong decisions, and purpose in life. But when liver energy gets stuck, indecision, irritability, anger, and feelings of being trapped arise. The ethereal soul may feel lost or scattered, and energy stagnates as emotional toxicity. Modern research supports this idea. Studies in neuropsychoneuroimmunology and psychosomatic medicine link high liver enzymes to chronic stress, emotional suppression, and trouble expressing or even recognizing anger. The liver doesn't just suffer from these issues, it holds on to them, storing conflicts that consciousness hasn't released. Doctors have seen how improving liver health through diet, detox, or breathing exercises can trigger emotional releases. Hidden tears, buried anger, and forgotten memories often surface as the body cleanses itself. From an esoteric point of view, the liver is also a center of personal power. It connects directly to the solar plexus, which is the seat of the external self, the place of will, boundaries, and presence in the world. When the liver is strong and clear, a person radiates confidence, clarity, and authority. But when the liver is overwhelmed, that energy becomes hostility, defensiveness, or passivity disguised as submission. In other words, how the liver feels influences whether we push back, withdraw, or react poorly to life. Ancient Hermetic and Rosicrucian texts called the liver the opaque chalice, in contrast to the heart's translucent chalice. While the heart stands for love made visible, the liver holds unprocessed emotions and hard truths waiting to be transformed. This work, turning raw feelings into wisdom, is just as sacred as love. The liver digests inner poison, not by denying it, but by including it in the journey toward healing. This transformation doesn't happen by itself. We first have to accept that anger isn't the enemy. Anger is a message. It signals when our boundaries are crossed, when our truth is ignored, or when a real need is suppressed. The problem isn't feeling anger, but ignoring it or turning it inward as guilt, exhaustion, or illness. Many people live feeling tired or empty without realizing that their liver is overloaded, not just with toxins, but with unspoken judgments, hidden betrayals, and grief never expressed. Cleansing the liver is more than diet or fasting. It's facing what hurts, naming what burns, and releasing anger with awareness, not violence. Some tools like journaling, deep breathing, or bodywork can help free the liver's emotional load. Other methods like solar plexus meditation, imagining a purifying fire, or using healing sounds like the Taoist shh sound can activate the liver's energy and open the door to clarity and power. The liver usually works quietly without demanding attention. When it breaks down, it's often gradual and unnoticed, just like suppressed anger. That anger shows up in small ways: clenched teeth, sarcastic comments, emotional distance disguised as maturity, until the body can't hold it anymore. Then the whisper becomes a shout. Symptoms, crises, illness. At that moment, many wonder, why now? Without realizing the cause isn't outside, but years of buried feelings turning into physical symptoms. The body doesn't punish, it just reflects. The liver doesn't judge, it just collects. Seeing the liver as an emotional guardian and energetic filter changes how we relate to ourselves. It's not just about feeling good emotionally, but about fully inhabiting all parts of ourselves, even the hard stuff. Spiritual energy isn't only about rising up. It's also about cleaning out the sludge inside, holding the darkness without losing light, and using what's hard as fuel for growth. The liver is the great forgotten ally in this process. If the heart connects us to love, the liver connects us to raw truth. If the pineal gland lifts us up, the liver brings us face to face with ourselves. If the uterus creates, the liver purifies. No spiritual path that ignores the liver is complete. True light can't shine through dirty filters. True power can't show if poison remains inside. And we can't love freely if anger stays locked away under a mask of peace. Liver alchemy is the redemption of repressed emotion. It's the mature act of looking inside without fear, admitting what's there, letting go of what no longer serves, and letting the fire that once burned quietly become a cleansing, healing, empowering light. Chapter 11. The skin, membrane of consciousness, border with the world. The skin is so obvious that we often overlook it as a spiritual gateway. We think of it simply as the body's boundary, what separates us from everything outside. But that limited view hides its true role. The skin doesn't just separate, it also reveals. It doesn't just protect, it also communicates. It's the first and last line between who we are and the world around us. Where the body starts, consciousness writes itself. Every pore, fold, and mark on our skin isn't just biological, it's a map of our emotional and energetic history. Physiologically, the skin is the largest organ in the body, responsible for regulating temperature, immunity, feeling, and releasing waste. It has three main layers: epidermis, dermis, and subcutaneous tissue that work together as a complex living defense system. But from a spiritual view, the skin isn't just a barrier. It's a membrane of consciousness, a living wrapping that senses the outside world and translates it into signals inside. Modern somatic psychology shows how the skin reflects trauma, memories, and hidden emotional wounds. Skin conditions like eczema, psoriasis, hives, or severe acne often connect to feelings of abandonment, aggression, shame about the body, or violated boundaries from early life. The skin doesn't just react to chemicals, it reacts to how we've been touched, how safe we felt, or whether we were looked at with respect or not. What our mind forgets, our skin holds on to. This isn't a new idea. In Kabbalah, before the fall, Adam's body was covered not by skin, but by a mantle of light called the Ketonet. After the fall, that light was replaced by skin, not as punishment, but as a denser form of consciousness. Skin is the result of incarnated consciousness, not a prison. It's a school for learning about boundaries, how to be touched without being invaded, and how to touch without controlling. Early trauma, especially before we learn language, is recorded right on the skin. Babies can't understand absence or hurt logically, but their skin remembers. Cold or violent touches change the brain's emotional centers, activate stress responses, and leave genetic marks on the skin. That's why some people struggle to set healthy boundaries. Not because they can't say no, but because their skin never learned to tell the difference between care and danger. Living disconnected from your skin is like living without knowing where you end and others begin. In traditional Chinese medicine, the skin connects to the lung meridian and represents the corporeal soul, called the Po. The Po feels, reacts, adjusts, and descends into the body. When the Po is healthy, a person feels safe, breathes easily, and owns their space. When it's weak, the skin becomes either overly sensitive or numb, unable to keep the line between self and world. Many skin problems are just the skin's way of crying out that its boundaries have been crossed without permission. In Hermetic thought, the skin is where your personal magnetic field shows up. The energy you send out or take in isn't just subtle, it's shaped and guided by your skin, which connects your physical body to your energetic field. Healing practices like laying on hands, craniosacral therapy, tantric massage, or conscious touch don't just work on muscles or nerves. They work on this living membrane that remembers and organizes your embodied experience. So touch can be healing if it's done with awareness and intention. It's not about touching more, but touching better. Contemporary somatic therapies like somatic experiencing and body-mind centering confirm this with science. Gentle, warm, and steady touch calms the nervous system, lowers stress hormones, and increases oxytocin, the hormone linked to trust and healing relationships. But beyond chemistry, the body needs to feel truly held, without control or dominance. That feeling rewrites the skin's story. It creates new possibilities for trust. Energetically, the skin also acts as a boundary. Every spiritual path needs discernment, knowing what to let in, what to keep out, what belongs and what doesn't. This isn't just a mental skill, it's a somatic one. Healthy skin learns to say enough, to close off when invaded, and to open up when met with care. Many spiritual seekers try to protect themselves through the mind, unaware that true protection starts with skin consciousness, the living boundary. Without it, relationships get messy. Spirituality feels like escape, and the body never learns how to rest. A connected skin is home and refuge, a clear but open border. You don't need a lifetime of retreats or advanced techniques to live in your skin. It's enough to shower mindfully, feel your clothes, notice the breeze on your skin, or sleep holding yourself gently. True spirituality doesn't begin somewhere up high. It starts right here, on your skin, with what's already present. Because if the liver holds what we didn't say, the skin holds what no one should have done. If the heart feels and the brain thinks, the skin simply records and reacts. And if the soul really wants to live fully, it's not enough to believe in spirit. You have to be aware of that living surface where spirit and body meet. The skin isn't just a surface, it's a threshold, a story, and a sensitive technology. It's the body's first and last word, and those who haven't learned to read their skin will struggle to read their soul. Chapter 12. The Bone Marrow, the Silent Archive of Lineage. Deep inside our bones, the bone marrow is usually seen just as the tissue that makes blood cells. Medically, we know it's crucial. It produces red and white blood cells and platelets that keep our whole body running. But this purely biological view misses something important. Many spiritual and medical traditions see the bone marrow as a living archive of our family history, holding emotional, spiritual, and ancestral memories that the blood itself never forgets. Bone marrow doesn't just create life, it protects what we are and what we don't yet understand about ourselves. In Taoist practice, especially in Neguan and internal alchemy, the marrow is more than biological fluid. It's Jinghua, the purest form of inherited vital energy called Jing, or ancestral essence. This energy controls how long we live and how strong we are, but it also carries the energy of our ancestors, the unfinished business, the wounds still seeking healing across generations. Healing the marrow means more than regenerating cells. It means reshaping the story of the family we come from. Traditional Chinese medicine links the bone marrow to the kidneys, which hold our vital life force and form the root of body and spirit. The kidneys control the bones, and bone marrow is the finest product of kidney energy. When kidney energy is strong, bones are solid, marrow is full, and willpower is firm. But if kidney energy is weak due to trauma, excess stress, or emotional imbalances, the bones weaken, marrow becomes scarce, and our sense of purpose fades. From this view, bones don't just support the body physically, they support the soul's memory. Andean shamans share a similar view. In many South American indigenous cultures, bones are said to be the last part of the body to die, because they're the last to release the soul. The skeleton holds the essential information of lineage. Ancient shamans believed that every fracture or bone disease was like a closed book. Signs of unhealed ancestral stories the body still carries. Healing the bone marrow through rituals, chants, or hands-on work was a way to recover the deep ancestral narrative of the soul. Today, epigenetics begins to explain these ideas scientifically. Trauma experienced by one generation can leave chemical marks on DNA passed down through several generations. These epigenetic marks don't change our genes, but influence how they turn on or off. affecting emotions, disease risk, and how we respond to the world. Simply put, what our grandparents didn't process can show up in our bones, not as punishment, but because life holds on to what we haven't understood. Bone marrow produces blood, which many traditions call the carrier of the soul. If the marrow carries unresolved pain, it imprints the blood with a message of internal conflict, suspicion, and deep disconnection. Many people carry a heavy, unexplained sadness or anxiety that doesn't come from their own experience but from ancestral wounds. A grandmother who was silenced, a grandfather who was humiliated, a great-grandfather who gave up hope. That energy travels quietly in our cells, like a hidden code we live by without knowing it. In advanced Taoist and Tantric practices, there are special techniques to fill and renew the bone marrow with light. These involve deep breathing, visualization, and focused intention to reactivate ancestral energy, not by reliving suffering but by transforming it. The goal is to turn the marrow from a forgotten storage of pain into a conscious archive, where memories don't control us but guide us with wisdom. This idea connects with a new area of neuroscience, studying the immune system as a second memory system. Bone marrow stem cells can adapt and respond to past experiences without the brain's direct involvement. In other words, our body remembers through the blood and immature cells, the very seeds of who we are. So every choice we make and every emotion we feel may be shaped not just by our current life, but by what's quietly held deep in our bones. What do we do with this silent archive? How do we free ourselves from the stories inside without being overwhelmed? First, we need to realize that we aren't isolated individuals. We're part of a living network that includes our ancestors, ourselves, and future generations. Our body is where soul stories and family histories meet. If we listen closely, the body not only falls ill, but also reveals its truths. Next, we return our attention to the marrow as a place of consciousness. Guided meditations that explore the body from within. Breaths that imagine light filling the bones. Chants to purify the blood. And declarations to release inherited patterns. All help the marrow shift from burden to teacher. This happens not by rejecting what we've inherited, but by accepting it without blame or silence. The marrow doesn't shout, it stores, it doesn't force, it offers. And what it holds isn't only pain, but also unfulfilled promises, hidden talents, and unfinished visions that we might be called to continue. Maybe your fear isn't truly yours, but your courage can be. Maybe your story doesn't end with you, but can be transformed through you. When the marrow stops being a basement and becomes a temple, we become more than just children of the past. We become ancestors of the future. Chapter 13. The Language of the Organ. Emotion, Energy, and Psychosomatic Resonance. Every organ in the body is like a verb, a gland, a hidden message. The body isn't just a silent machine, it's a living text. Unresolved emotions become words in this text, and ignored conflicts leave marks in the tissues. Modern medicine, still stuck in a mechanical way of thinking, often sees organs only as biological parts, ignoring their emotional and symbolic roles. But the body does more than function. It communicates, interprets, and responds. And it does this in a language the logical mind forgets, but the soul always remembers. When an organ gets sick, what's really happening is that something unsaid wants to be heard. Something unfelt needs to surface. Something unreleased demands expression. The body becomes the voice for what both the individual and collective unconscious have pushed aside. Disease isn't just a mistake or an attack from outside. It's a psychosomatic message, an effort by the whole system, body, emotions, and consciousness, to heal a break in balance. Many traditions have shared this idea in their own words. For example, Dr. Reich Gerd-Hamer's work in German medicine shows that every disease comes from a sudden biological conflict, experienced alone and unresolved. Each organ reacts to a specific emotional conflict: the liver to feelings of loss or territory, the lungs to deep fears, the skin to emotional separations. This isn't just a metaphor. These emotional conflicts cause real biological changes. Tissues get inflamed, shrink, or regenerate, depending on the type and length of the conflict. Modern energy psychology agrees, seeing the emotional and biological fields as one vibrating system. Organs act like resonators. When strong emotions stay trapped in the subconscious, they harden into physical blocks that eventually affect the body. Resentment can get stuck in the liver. Sadness can slow the colon. Fear can tighten the diaphragm and disrupt the adrenal glands. Quantum biology, though still new, supports this too. Scientists like Bruce Lipton and Joe Dispenza explain how what we believe and feel affects gene expression and cell behavior. Our organs form and function based on internal states, meaning our emotions shape who we are physically. Though mainstream medicine hasn't fully accepted this, it's clear the mind isn't just in the brain, it's in every cell. Each organ connects the unseen to the seen, thoughts to physical reality. This idea isn't new in spiritual traditions either. Hermetic teachings say the body is a small universe, and each organ represents a cosmic principle. The heart is the sun, the liver is Mars, the kidneys are Venus, and the brain is Mercury. Each organ vibrates at a certain frequency and reacts to emotional and spiritual patterns. The body is a temple, and every organ is an altar where life is honored or betrayed. If we learn to listen, the body becomes a tool of insight. If we ignore it, it becomes a prison of misunderstood symptoms. Spiritual somatics offers ways to read organs from inside. By closing your eyes and focusing on the stomach, for example, you can sense not just physical feelings, but hidden emotions like anxiety or rejection. This isn't fantasy, it's real neurobiology. The body is wired with neurons and receptors that let organs send and receive emotional messages. The gut has over 100 million neurons. The heart has more than 40,000. Science now accepts that organs have feelings. They just haven't learned their full language yet. So how do we learn that language? How do we understand what the pancreas tries to say when it hurts? Or what the lungs express when they struggle to breathe? Or what the kidneys signal when they fail? The key is symbolism. Every symptom is a metaphor, and like any metaphor, it needs to be read from a broader perspective, not literally. If the liver filters toxins, maybe you're not filtering your emotions well. If the thyroid controls metabolism, maybe you struggle to regulate how you express yourself. If the ovaries create life and become sick, maybe creativity or motherly feelings are blocked. The real question isn't what's wrong with me, but what is this part of me trying to say through this change? Sacred teachings offer clues. The Zohar says the soul has 248 organs and 365 veins, each part linked to a spiritual quality. Ayurveda connects doshas to how organs respond inside and out. Kabbalah links organs to parts of the tree of life, meaning physical problems reflect energetic imbalances on the way to wholeness. The Gnostic Gospel of Thomas says, "If you bring forth what is within you, that will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, that which you do not bring forth will destroy you." In this view, a sick organ is a message waiting to be understood. Seeing the body as sacred text isn't about religion. It's a choice to reconnect with who we truly are. It means dropping the idea that the body is just a broken machine and instead seeing it as an oracle speaking through tissues and pulses. Doctors don't just give diagnoses, they help patients decode their body's language. Therapists don't just fix parts, they translate what organs are saying. The body doesn't just reveal itself, it responds. Disease isn't an enemy, it's a language. Every hurting, inflamed, or failing organ speaks because it has no other way to say what the soul can't keep silent. Learning to listen without fear or judgment is the start of real healing, not just for the body, but for the spirit's full voice, its word made flesh. Chapter 14. Breathing from the center. Exercises, activation, and integrated coherence. Breathing is our first act of life and our last act of leaving it. Between those two moments, we often forget that breathing isn't just an automatic body function, it's a powerful spiritual tool with a neurobiological basis. When we consciously use it, breathing can reorganize our nervous system, emotions, hormones, and energy. It's the only action we do both automatically and on purpose, making it a perfect bridge between the unconscious and conscious mind. But not just any breathing works. We need to recover and retrain our breath, reconnect it to the body's center to awaken dormant organs and bring harmony to our mind, emotions, and body. This chapter doesn't offer a magic trick or a spiritual practice disconnected from the body. Instead, it shares a deep, practical approach, combining modern neurophysiology with ancient wisdom from Taoism, Hermeticism, yoga, and somatic psychology. It's not just a technique, it's a way to live fully in your body without fragmentation. Your body stops being a passive vessel for thoughts and emotions and becomes a living altar where spirit and matter communicate. It all starts with the diaphragm. This dome-shaped muscle, separating the chest from the abdomen, often gets ignored in modern medicine except as a breathing muscle. But energy-wise and emotionally, it's a central hub where the nervous system, lymphatic system, and emotional system meet. Shallow chest-only breathing keeps the body in fight or flight mode, while deep belly breathing activates the vagus nerve, triggering calm and healing. So breathing deeply from the diaphragm isn't optional, it's rewiring your emotional body. Diaphragmatic breathing is the foundation for healing. To practice, lie on your back with one hand on your chest and the other on your belly. Breathe slowly and deeply through your nose, making sure your belly rises while your chest stays still. Inhale for 4 to 6 seconds, then exhale slowly through your nose or mouth for the same time. Repeat for a few minutes and your body begins to remember how to breathe naturally. But the key is awareness. Each breath in is energy coming in. Each breath out is letting go. Once you've recovered this breathing, you can add grounding. In today's overthinking culture, many live in their heads and forget their bodies. Grounding isn't just an idea, it's a physical experience. Focus your attention on parts of your body you usually ignore, your feet, hips, lower back. Sit quietly, keep breathing deeply, and feel the soles of your feet on the floor. Slowly move your attention up through your legs, hips, belly, chest, neck, and face. This body scan is proven to lower stress hormones, increase brain flexibility, and help regulate emotions. Next is conscious touch. As covered earlier, skin holds memory. To retrain your skin, you need to reconnect with gentle, neutral touch. Not sexual or emotional, but simply aware contact. Try stroking your arm slowly, noticing temperature, texture, and pulse. It might seem small, but it deeply impacts your brain's emotional centers, helping it recognize your body as safe. This practice has helped unlock decades-old trauma in some people. Finally, add visualization focused on your organs. After grounding and breathing, Bring your awareness to your chest and picture your heart as a glowing sun, radiating light. Then move to your belly and imagine your liver filtering emotions. Picture your thymus as a lotus opening to compassion. It's not the images that matter, but the focus you keep while breathing deeply. This triggers brainwaves linked to deep healing and learning. It's not about belief, it's about experiencing how your mind controls your body. Science explains these practices through 3 ideas: cardiac coherence, emotional neuroplasticity, and calming the stress response. Cardiac coherence, studied by HeartMath, shows how syncing your heart rhythm, breathing, and brainwaves boosts clarity, gratitude, and healing. Emotional neuroplasticity means repeating safe body states rewires your brain, and deep breathing calms the stress system, helping your body relax. This chapter is more than advice. It's a guide for awakening your body and spirit organically. It doesn't require belief or special rituals, just honest daily practice. Returning to your body without theories, breathing with attention, feeling slowly, visualizing with focus, touching gently, and living as if your body is sacred, because it is. Every organ waits for recognition. Every cell listens. After practicing this several times, something changes. Not a sudden miracle, but a deep return to center, a cellular memory of what it felt like to live fully before fear, trauma, or conditioning. You'll realize you never lost your way. You just forgot the temple isn't somewhere else, but here, in your breathing flesh, in your feeling skin, in your remembering marrow. This is where forgetfulness ends. This is where true living begins. This is where you finally breathe from your center. Chapter 15. Inhabiting the temple, living from the organs, not from the surface. For centuries, the body was seen as a problem, a leftover, a prison, or just a temporary vessel for the soul. Dualist philosophies trying to raise the spirit ended up putting down the body as low, dirty, and temporary. But deep spirituality always circles back to what it once rejected. The body isn't something to escape, it's something to understand. This chapter closes the journey by reminding us that the temple isn't just a metaphor. It's a real living structure made of biology, energy, and vibration, and it's always been the home of the divine. To truly live is not just to accept the body, but to live from its core, from its organs, from the sacred design that holds it together. When scriptures say, "Don't you know that you are the temple of the Holy Spirit, and that the Spirit of God lives in you?" 1 Corinthians 3:16. They aren't speaking symbolically. They describe a reality that the mind, trained to think only of ideas and not the body, has ignored. The temple is not just a concept or a perfect idea. It's the human body itself, its flesh, blood, glands, marrow, skin, heart, intestines, and breath. But recognizing this isn't enough. You have to learn to live from it. What does that mean? It means moving from thinking only with your head to feeling from your center, from making decisions through judgment to responding through your liver, your solar plexus, your thymus. True wisdom isn't some mental concept, it's a harmony between organs, where each part informs, guides, and supports the others. The liver doesn't just filter toxins, it filters emotions. The intestines don't just digest food, they digest stories. The bone marrow doesn't just make blood, it holds the memory of your lineage. And the heart doesn't just beat, it listens. This isn't spiritual idealism. It's energetic anatomy backed by observation and growing science. Neurocardiology shows the heart has its own nervous system that can remember, learn, and send signals to the brain. Neurogastroenterology finds the intestines hold over 100 million neurons and create most of the body's serotonin. Psychoneuroimmunology reveals the immune system reacts not just to germs, but also to thoughts, relationships, and beliefs. Every organ thinks, feels, remembers, and talks. The idea that consciousness lives only in the head is outdated. Living from the organs doesn't mean obsessing over them or turning every pain into a prophecy. It means listening. It means inhabiting. It means seeing the body not as a set of parts serving a demanding mind, but as a symphony of intelligences in constant conversation. It means letting the mind settle into the heart into the belly into the bones. It means living in a way where you don't react out of fear, but respond from freed cellular memory. Here, the body reveals itself as the exact score of the soul. Each organ is a word in the secret language the soul wrote in flesh. No disease exists without a disconnection trying to heal. No symptom is not a message begging to be heard. Every organ is a door. Living from the surface means reacting. Living from the organs means responding. Life becomes listening instead of controlling. You move through your day not by what I should do, but by what my body needs. Ancient traditions knew this. In ancient Egypt, the body was a sacred map, and each organ was judged by Ma'at, not as punishment but as recognition. Taoists meditated on organs, feeding them with colors, sounds, and emotions. Hermetic teachings linked each gland to a planet and each bone to a cosmic idea. There was no separation between body and universe. Shamans sang to the liver, honored the uterus, and blew on the skin, not out of superstition but as a ritual to reunite with the body as home. We've lost touch with this, but it can be remembered, not by external rituals but by an inner choice. To return to the body not as a burden but as a temple, not as an enemy but as a tool, not as a barrier to the divine but as the divine in human form. When you live this way, you don't need to search for light outside. Light doesn't come down from heaven, it rises up from your bones. Revelation doesn't happen only in altered states. It happens the moment you breathe with awareness, walk with presence, sleep with gratitude, and listen to your liver before judging. This is the highest state an embodied soul can reach, living every organ as a sacred space, every feeling as a message, every action as a prayer in motion. The body stops being decoration or a means to an end. It becomes the exact place of fulfillment. It's not about escaping matter, it's about remembering matter is concentrated spirit. Organs aren't spare parts, but living phrases in a language you can only understand from within. Here the book ends, but a new life begins. A life not from the surface, but from the core, from the heart, liver, skin, marrow, thymus. A life where spirituality isn't somewhere up there or beyond, but in how you fully live what you already have. Illumination isn't just an idea. It's well-lived tissue, marrow that remembers, breath that knows, a body finally becoming temple. Here the book ends,